listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again, and man, today we have another special interview for you all today. Today, man, we're going to talk about a topic that I think is very important. We're going to talk about, can Social Security disability be saved? And we're going to have a special guest. He's not just an author of Social Security Disability Revealed, Spencer Bishins. He is going to tell us a little bit about himself, a little background, so we can learn all about what he does today. First and foremost, I just want to welcome you, Spencer, to the show and say, how you doing, man?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm doing great. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, do the honors, man. Tell the audience a bit about yourself.
Yeah, I worked for Social Security for almost 11 years, writing and reviewing thousands of disability decisions for administrative law judges. And during that time, as you can imagine, I learned a lot about how the process works, things that the judges say behind closed doors, things that the agency doesn't really want the public to know. And so when I left Social Security, I wanted to make sure and get this information into the hands of the general public, claimants, their doctors, their family members, so that people could best understand how the system works, where the barriers are, and why it's so difficult to file and win a disability claim, but also to take that information and know how you can improve your chances and give yourself the best possible chance of success.
And that's an important topic that I think most people will definitely appreciate. So when you wrote your book, let's talk a little bit about your book real quick, Social Security Disability Revealed. What were some of the core takeaways that you put in your book for the readers to take away from?
It's really important to understand the system because Social Security, the rules, the procedures, it's all really complex. And that's intentional. The law is intentionally written to be confusing and to make it really difficult to win a disability claim. So the two really major takeaways from my book are, one, you have to be educated on the system. You have to understand what disability means, what it doesn't, how Social Security makes its decisions, and what kind of evidence you need in order to have a successful disability claim. But the second takeaway is that people need to understand that even if they read my book, they're not legal experts. I'm just providing the basic overview of the system. And while that's important to know, it's important to understand that for any legal proceeding, you have to have a legal professional on your side. And I explain in the book how to find a good legal representative, how they get paid. And I want people to understand hiring, for some people, this is the first time they're ever going to have hired a lawyer in their entire lives. And it's not nearly as scary as it sounds. And if you've seen a commercial on TV where they say, we only get paid if you win, that's true. And so I want people to understand, here's who these people are. This is how they get paid. This is why they do this Social Security disability work. And this is how a legal representative is going to help you present your case in the best possible light.
And people can get this book on Amazon, and you recently put this out in July, so it's fairly new. When it comes to the differences between two Social Security disability programs, SSI and SSDI, what is the difference between the two? And explain that for the audience, if you don't mind.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of differences. So, of course, I fully fleshed that out in the book. But the main difference is that SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance, it's an insurance program. Anyone who's an employee who gets a pay stub every 2 weeks will notice on their pay stub that they pay a federal income tax, or they have a federal income tax withheld from their paycheck. And they're also having a Medicare tax and a Social Security tax withheld from their paycheck. And that's totally normal. We're all required to pay income tax, but also Medicare and Social Security tax. And that Social Security tax goes to fund retirement benefits and also the SSDI disability program. On the other hand, SSI, supplemental security income, that's just funded by regular income taxes. And it's a program that's really for anyone who doesn't qualify for SSDI. The program you really want to be in, and that most of us are in if we're an employee and we pay the Social Security tax, or if you're self-employed, the self-employment tax, is that SSDI program. And that's a program that's really good because if you're approved for SSDI, you can get Medicare benefits and you can also try and go back to work while still receiving your disability benefits. On the other hand, the SSI program, it's much less stable. There are a lot of ways that those benefits can be taken away. Just one example that I give in the book is, let's say you have a housing crisis and you go crash on someone's couch. Well, Social Security will take the value of that, quote, air quotes, housing that friend is giving you, and they'll deduct that from your SSI benefit. So it's a really unstable program. It provides a lot less of a benefit, and that benefit can be easily taken away.
Once again, listen to Iron Refocus Radio, talking to our special guest for today, Spencer Bishins. You can go to his website, bishinspublishing.com. And with today's topic, all about Social Security disability, and the question specifically, can it be saved? Question comes to mind, what was the process like for someone who is trying to make a claim? How do they go about that? They're doing that for the very first time.
So a lot of people will go into a Social Security office or call the 800 number. But in the last decade or so, Social Security is really trying to get more people, as every business is, right, to go towards their website and to go onto the My Social Security website, create a profile, and file a claim that way. That is what I would recommend for people. There's no reason to spend time waiting on a phone or in a Social Security office when you can go right onto their website and file the claim right through your own account. But the thing is, Social Security, they'll tell you how to start the process. They'll say, oh, go to the My Social Security website. You can file an application. But they don't tell you what happens after that. And for most of us, we don't know, right? Most people don't understand how complex legal proceedings work. And so Social Security will say, well, send us your medical evidence so we can decide if you're disabled. And most people will send in their medical evidence and assume they're then going to be found disabled. But unfortunately, over 70% of people at that initial level will actually be denied. And that's why what we talked about a few minutes ago, that's why it's so important to know and understand how the process works. And also to have a qualified, knowledgeable legal representative on your side helping you present your case.
And speaking of that, if someone's claim is actually denied, what is the process for them to make an appeal? And is that even possible?
Yeah, the bad news is that 70% of claimants will be denied initially. But the good news is there are actually several levels of appeal. And that's another one of the themes of my book is there's always something else you can do. There's always a next step in the process. A lot of the book is explaining all of the obstacles and barriers that Social Security puts in your way to prevent you from accessing the benefits that you've paid for your entire working life. And what I want people to understand is, yes, these barriers are there, and I want people to know what the barriers are, but also to feel hope and feel empowered that there's always a next step in the process to try and get around those barriers. And so if you are denied, you could file an appeal. However, that first appeal has over a 95% denial rate. So chances are, if you're denied the first time, you're actually very likely to be denied a second time. But then after that, you can appeal again and ask for a hearing with an administrative law judge. And that was my job. I wasn't a judge, but I wrote the decisions that the judges make. they don't write their own decisions. They have staff attorneys that do that. And I wrote those decisions. And I can tell you that at that point in the process, the likelihood of approval gets better because you have federal judges. They don't work for the state agencies that handle those first two reviews. They're independent decision makers. And the other thing is, at that point in the process, a lot of people do have a legal representative helping them. And so the medical records that they submit at that point are more clear, they're more well put together, there's better medical opinions. But a lot of people, unfortunately, are still denied at that level. And part of the reason for that is that either they don't have a representative or they don't fully understand what's going to happen at their hearing or after their hearing. And I wrote the book because I feel like if people do have a better understanding of how those appeals work, what happens at a hearing, who will appear at your hearing, what things you should say or not say at your hearing, that knowledge really does help someone have a better case presentation, and it can give someone more confidence and a better chance of being approved.
And with the current system that we have for Social Security disability, what's some areas that you can spot out that can be improved for people who are trying to make claims?
It's a really interesting question because, of course, improving the Social Security disability system, unfortunately, would require input from Congress. And Social Security and Medicare, as we all know, they're called the third rail of politics because nobody wants to touch them. And so in the last chapter of the book, I provide what I think would be a great way to fix the Social Security disability system and all federal public benefit system in the US, which is to literally just get rid of all of them and just give people money. Studies have been done in the last 10, 15 years that show the best way to fix the housing crisis in our country, to fix homelessness, is literally to just give people homes. And in a lot of ways, the way you can fix the public benefit system is not to make people go through this application and approval process, which can be really demeaning and demoralizing. But instead, a lot of times it's cheaper to literally just give people money. And actually, that's something that we saw during the pandemic, right? Congress gave money 3 times to almost every American. They just literally gave people money so they would go out and spend it. But that's, of course, stops now. And so we're back to this system of all these different types of public benefits: housing assistance, food assistance, healthcare assistance like the CHIP program, disability assistance. And this hodgepodge of programs is really inefficient and really expensive. So if I had my way, I would definitely recommend something like a universal basic income. And I explain in the book how that would work and why that would cost our country so much less money to do that kind of a system. But I also acknowledge that that's a long-term view, right? For today's claimants, for people who have ongoing cases or about to file a case, those people need help now, today, under the current system. So even though I think it would be great if our country went to a different type of public benefits delivery system, we all have to understand the system that we currently have, and we have to know how to work within the confines of that system. Especially if you're a current claimant, you have to know what I can do today to give myself the best chance at having a successful claim.
Once again, listen to Iron Refocus Radio, talking to our guest for today, Spencer Bishins. You go to his website one more time, bensonpublishing.com. Now, when it comes to American veterans, how are there avenues to help them as well going through this process? And is there any different processes that are available for them to have access to?
Well, so the veterans obviously can go through the VA for veterans benefits. And when someone leaves the military, if they have a physical or mental impairment that was connected to their military service, they can file a VA claim and the VA will assign a service connected disability rating. And veterans can separately and independently apply for Social Security benefits because, of course, they're American citizens and they pay the Social Security tax just like everyone else. And so they can file at the same time for VA benefits and Social Security benefits because those programs are administered by different agencies. However, having said that, I wrote a lot of decisions for cases where the veteran had an 80 or 90% service connected disability rating, sometimes even 100%, and yet they were denied Social Security disability benefits. And the reason is because the VA and Social Security have different rules for defining what disability means. And that's why it's so important to understand what the Social Security program is, how Social Security makes decisions, what impairments they consider to be disabling, what evidence you need to prove your impairment, and like we talked about earlier, how the appeals process works in case you lose your case. But also, even if you win your case and you're awarded benefits, Social Security can and does take benefits away from people. So it's really important, whatever stage in the process you're in, to understand how the system works and to know what your next steps need to be. And that's why I wrote the book. And as you've said, all the places that you can buy the book, you can find all of that information at our website, bishinspublishing.com. That's BISHINS publishing.com.
And this book is for many different people. Someone who is a representative, friends, counselors, a caregiver, excuse me. When people are learning more about this, because eventually we're all going to need it, right? One day. What is the most important thing to keep in mind when they're going through the process of just trying to get the claim reviewed and decided on? Because it sounded like it's a process that you have to be patient with. It's not like you get it within 7 days.
You're right. We all have the same medical impairment, and that's called aging. And that will affect all of us differently, but it's something that we are all constantly going through, right? We're all constantly going through this aging process, which will affect our mind and body in a myriad of different ways. And many of us will find ourselves unable to work due to a medical impairment and need the Social Security disability system. And the most important thing to remember is Social Security is not on your side. Their job is to protect the Social Security Trust Fund, which actually means denying as many claims as possible. So the thing you have to remember is you have to be your own advocate, or a family member or a caregiver or a friend could help you. Or if you see someone in your life who you know who needs help, you could get the book and read the book and help them. But we all ultimately have to be our own advocates. We have to make sure we know it's in our medical records, and we have to make sure that we are in charge of our own case, because Social Security is not going to do that for us. We have to make sure we understand the rules, the procedures. We've found a good representative to help us along the way, but we're the ones who have to go to the doctor and submit our medical records and make sure that we know what's going on and that we're following all of Social Security's complicated rules. So, yeah, like you said, this book is for a claimant or anyone in their support network to help that person present the best possible case for approval of benefits.
Well, if you're listening right now, you want to learn even more about the subject that Spencer really dives into, you go again anywhere you get a book. Amazon is the hot spot, so you can go there and just type in Social Security Disability Revealed. It's all about why it's hard to access benefits and what you can do about it. First and foremost, man, I want to say to you, Spencer Bishins. Thank you for your time, sharing your expertise on this topic, and just for your knowledge. And you worked in Social Security Administration, so like it's perfect that you were able to talk on the subject today. So we thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me. The more people I can get this message to, the better.